Welcome to the Wilson Center's Ghostlight Series at Cape Fear Community College. We are proud to announce a new part of our series, which will be special guests on Sundays at 7 p.m. These special guests and personalities have graciously agreed to allow proceeds donated during their performance to support Broadway for a Better World, our program which allows those from our communities, particularly youth, to attend any performance at the Wilson Center. I would like to thank our partner, Rhonda Bellamy with the Arts Council of Wilmington and New Hanover County. And as always, I pray that you and your loved ones stay safe at this time. And as always, thank you for being our guest.
Hi, my name is Wiley Cash, and I am a novelist living and working right here in Wilmington. I'm so honored to be part of the Ghostlight Series from the Wilson Center. This is a time when artists and creatives and people in the theater, we really need to come together to keep this thriving community going. I've been very fortunate to have my work produced on the local stage here in Wilmington. So I know the power of local theater and I know the power of local community. So thank you for helping us extend that welcome and that power to others. My most recent novel is called The Last Ballad, and it is based on the true story of the Lorry Mill strike, which occurred in my hometown of Gastonia, North Carolina in 1929. And the strike was led by a woman named Ella Mae Wiggins, who was worked in a cotton mill as a spinner, but she was also a balladeer and a performer. And she wrote some songs about the strike that went on to be performed by Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger. And what Ella was particularly good at was organizing people with the local union. She organized white workers, she organized African-American workers, because she believed in the collective power of individuals. And that's what the Ghostlight Series is doing, is it's organizing all of us, the collective power of individuals toward a greater good, towards supporting a community that we care about. And that is something that Ella Mae Wiggins certainly would have been behind. And so I thought that today I would read a brief excerpt from the novel. And in this scene, Ella is trying to decide whether or not she's going to go to this local union rally where people are organizing and asking for a living wage and safer working conditions and sanitary housing. By this time in the novel, she's already lost a child to poverty. Her husband has abandoned the family years before, and she earns $9 a week for a 60-hour work week in a local cotton mill. And she's starving to death, and she believes that her children are starving to death as well. And this is set on the morning of this union rally. She's trying to decide whether or not to attend. And she's talking with her boyfriend, a man named Charlie Shope, and he's discouraging her from going to the rally. He's discouraging her from associating herself with African-American workers. He's discouraging her from associating herself with the union, which he is, labeling as a bunch of communists that are just going to get you in trouble. And so he's discouraging her from uniting in this collective power of the individual, which is something that I support. And I think in times like this, during the coronavirus, we can all support the collective power of the individual to affect good and to affect positivity and to reach out a hand in our community. And so I'll just start. In this scene, Ella is 28 years old and Charlie's about the same age, and they are in Ella's bedroom the morning of this rally. She's trying to decide whether or not to attend. "You ain't still thinking about going to that rally today?" Charlie asked, his question more of a statement than a query. His warm breath was in her hair on the back of her neck. "Sunday's my day off," Ella said. "I reckon I can go where I want." He sighed. "What do you want with a bunch of communists?" he asked. "The governor already called in the National Guard and beat up a whole bunch of people. This strike ain't gonna get you nothing but killed." She pictured her daughter Rose's tiny feet and skinny ankles sticking out from beneath the blanket that morning. She thought of how her baby Wink had cried when her milk dried up when he was just 3 months old. She thought of the biscuit crumbs sitting in the empty pan atop the stove, the fatback's grease the only thing left behind in the skillet. The apple and half sandwich her boss had thrown away before her eyes. Her $9 pay wasn't coming until Friday, and most of it was already gone to rent and store credit. Well, I reckon me and these babies are going to die if we keep living this way, she said, so what's it matter? It matters to me, Charlie said. Ella kicked off the sheet, sat on the side of the bed, turned toward him. What should I do, Charlie? Wait on you to bring it home? You can't even keep a job. Well, you know mill work ain't my thing. Ella laughed, looked toward the window, put her elbows on her knees and her face in her hands. It ain't my thing either, Charlie. If you got something else in mind for me to do, then tell me, and I'll do it. Otherwise, this union's my last chance. I don't want a girl of mine out there running around with a bunch of Yankee Reds. Well, I ain't yours, she said. She looked up, folded her arms across her knees. And this ain't your bed or your house neither. If you think any different, I reckon it's time you move on. She heard his hand slip from beneath the sheet. Instead of closing her eyes, she stared at the wall where the light moved across it. She was prepared for a slap or a punch, so it was only the surprise of his hand reaching out to caress her belly that made her flinch. Come on, he said, you're my girl. Ella wasn't afraid of him any more than he was afraid of her. They'd gone at it before. He'd hit her. She'd hit him. 2 weeks ago, he'd shown up drunk in the middle of the night looking for her ex-husband, a man she hadn't seen in over a year. Charlie pulled a knife on her when she'd come outside, and she'd chased him off into the woods. Charlie was the kind of man to which nothing good could happen. He was a rough sort. Ella knew that she was a rough sort too, but she worked hard and took care of her children, and she deserved some measure of softness, a moment of kindness, to be touched softly and kindly every now and then. Charlie Shope was the only measure of those things that she could find. They were both nearing 30, both mired down in the kind of poverty they'd never see the end of. She'd been married before, she reckoned she still was, and she had 4 children she'd managed to keep alive. Charlie's finger traced a circle around her navel as if branding her, and she thought of the tiny life taking root on the other side of his touch. You're my girl, he said again. I'm nobody's, Ella said. Come on, he said, sing me a song. I'd rather you just get out of my house, she said. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't much of a house, more like a 2-room shack with a cook stove over in one corner of the crowded front room. In the chilly back room, there was nothing but a low skid and a window always left unlocked unless she was mad. No, it wasn't much of a house, but it was hers as long as she could make rent. And that was something to be proud of. Did you know the communists think whites and coloreds are the same? He asked. I know we're all poor, if that counts for anything, Ella said. She stood from the bed, curled her toes into fists. And I work with coloreds, and you used to, and you go to them for liquor and who knows what else. It ain't the same, he said. It ain't the same as believing it. Well, I gotta believe in something, Ella said. Might as well believe in this union. Union ain't gonna save you, he said. There ain't no kind of life in these mills. He leaned on his elbow and propped his chin on his fist. He watched her get dressed. Music's how I'm gonna make my name. Ella smiled, laughed, just so he'd hear it. Keep on, he said. You'll see. You won't catch me running around with communists, and you won't catch me making a rich man richer by working in his mill. If we could all just make the big bucks strumming an old guitar like you, Charlie, we'd close the mills down, wouldn't we? Keep on, he said again. But I'm telling you, your voice, my music, we could make a damn sight of money. Leave this old place, go to Nashville. I ain't going to Tennessee, she said. I ain't crossing those mountains again. St. Louis, then, he said. Heck, anywhere but Bessemer City, North Carolina. She pulled her dress over her head and stepped into her shoes and cinched the buckles. He watched her until she picked up his overalls from the floor and tossed them at him where he lay. He dodged her throw, and his overalls sailed over his head and fell to the floor on the other side of the bed. He pointed to his guitar where it rested against the wall in the corner of the room. Let's play something, he said. She picked up the guitar by its neck and raised the window. Charlie watched her from the bed. She leaned out the window and lowered the guitar until she felt it touch the earth. She dropped it with a hollow thud. That's just being ugly, Charlie said. There ain't no reason to be ugly. So I decided to read that excerpt and share it with you for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that Ella is a serious writer. She's a serious performer. She's a serious singer. As I said, her music would go on to be performed by Woody Guthrie, who actually called her the mother of the American protest ballad, and Pete Seeger on his Industrial Ballads album in the 1970s. But she also had to make a living, and she worked in a mill, and times were hard. And eventually she's going to lose her job and join the union. And Charlie doesn't want to work. He wants to make his life playing music and wants to make his life in the arts. And Ella acknowledges how hard that is. Well, guess what? Times haven't changed very much. It's still very hard to make a living in the arts. It's very hard to make a living as a novelist. You know, I'm a New York Times bestselling author, and I can't provide for my family solely on book sales. So I do a lot of other things, and doing those things has become harder since the coronavirus has taken over this country and shut down so many opportunities for artists to make a living wage aside from the arts. And so that's why a project like this one is so very important. There are so many artists in Wilmington and so many performers and so many talented actors in Wilmington that are hurting right now. Not necessarily because the theaters are closed, but because their essential jobs that provide essential income aside from the arts are closed. And they're struggling. And we need to do our best to reach out to them, to find them, to bring them in, and to lend them a hand. Because a community without culture is not a community. And we have an incredible literary community, an artistic community, a theater community, a music community here in Wilmington. And we can't let that die. We can't let the coronavirus kill that. And so thank you for this opportunity to share some of my work with you and to share this message with you. And I hope you will share with us whatever you can and to support this wonderful project. Thank you for your time, and be safe and be well, and please support the arts.